Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with The Crossing, Season 1, Episode 3, Review. Alright, so I have to say I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was better than last week's episode for sure. I don't know, last one, I don't know, I just looking back at it, I maybe was a little bit too harsh in the review. But I don't know, I just felt like it was a step down from the pilot. And actually like a noticeable step down, at least for me. So, and I had, I think one person comment, and I really appreciate that, that they enjoyed it, and totally. I mean, it, like I always say, it's really subjective, right? All television and film is really subjective. So one person can absolutely hate something, never want to see it again, and another person may think that that's their favorite episode of the show, or that's their favorite TV show, their favorite movie, whatever, right? So everything's really subjective with that, and totally, everyone has, different tastes and stuff, and yeah, and I've even read that some people like the second episode better than the pilot, so yeah, it is what it is. Personally, though, I thought it was a step down, but this one, really just kind of reaffirms, what that pilot gave us, and, this was a little bit more of the same, so I really like this episode. Of course, we'll get in, a recap here, and then, towards the end, we'll, go through a rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts of the episode. But yeah, in general, I really did enjoy this episode, and kind of back on the crossing. I wasn't off of it or anything after last week's episode, but I just kind of lost a little bit of my interest, just because I thought it was a step down, a noticeable step down, like I said. But this one kind of brought it right back up for me. And I'm on a series. I'm totally gonna be watching it and reviewing it and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I just I think it's a really I think the series has a really it really has no limits, right? I mean, like it's so much potential for the series going forward. What they're gonna do with this whole theme and this twists and everything coming together, and all these characters they've already introduced to us. So there's a lot of stuff that they can do, and I really want to see that potential, fulfilled. And so far, I think they're gonna come through, and we're gonna have some really good episodes going forward, just like this one. So, anyways, so yeah, like I said, go through the recap here, and then more overall thoughts at the end. So, anyways, and I'd also like to thank you guys for the support on the last two reviews. They've done really well on the channel, so I really appreciate that. Especially the first one, all the comments and the likes and everything. So I really appreciate the support. For sure, please share your thoughts of the episode down below. I'd love to hear your comment, and I'll definitely reply. And I love having discussion with people who comment as well. And we can have a little bit of discussion about it. Maybe you disagree with something I said, and maybe I missed something, right? And that happens, quite often, that I miss something. So if you want to tell me that, then by all means, it's really awesome. So, anyways, so we start off this one. We see Reece in a bathroom, right? In the bathroom of that store that we saw, that we left her off at last week. So she's taking the bullet out of her chest. That was pretty gruesome there. She kind of, just taking it out, right? She's not waiting for anything. She just gets these little, this little tool, and she just does it right there in the bathroom by herself. So, anyways, that was pretty badass, right? That was pretty badass. So then we see that Deputy Craig arrives at the site. So he arrives at this, sort of like they have this tent set up in the forest type of thing. And he's really angry at his men for not being able to kill her last episode, right, at the docks there, where she was able to get away. Of course, she got shot, but she did get away, and she jumped in the water. And then this, the man, and I wish I got his name. I just totally missed that. So I'm just going to call him the man. But he was basically the leader of the whole mission to kill her, right? And he ended up dying at the end of the episode. But anyways, so he shows Craig a weapon that he is going to use to kill her, or at least help to kill her. And of course we learn what that is later on. And then Craig wants them to keep it low profile, though. He emphasizes this, right? He doesn't want it to get out that this genetically advanced creature or human apex is out on the loose, right? So he really wants them to keep it under wraps, and he doesn't want it to get out. So, okay, understandable, right? Chaos would probably ensue if that happened. But anyways, then we see the men charge into the store where Reece is kind of holding up, right? She's in that bathroom, and we just see a bunch of the men go in. But they get to the bathroom, and she is not there anymore. So she has, luckily escaped. And I think she can hear them, too. We see that she kind of hears them, and then, she knows to get the hell out of there, right? And then she writes on the mirror, "Back off or die in blood." And that's, so badass, right? I mean, damn. And then we get the intro. So that was really cool. And then also her note later in the episode as well. I mean, like, it's really kind of creepy, actually, but it's really, really cool. So, yeah, back off or die. And then, of course, they don't back off. And, yeah, most of them die, I would say, almost all of them die. So, she wasn't lying, right? That was not an empty threat. So we see that Craig goes in to question Thomas, so finally we get the resolve of this. Basically last episode we just saw Thomas in this room in a chair with a bag over his head, and that's about it. So now we're finally getting this scene. So Craig asks him who else knows about the earlier migration, and Thomas tells him no one else does. Like, no one knows about this, not the people living here, that are on Earth, and not the people from the future either. So he's really, there's no one out there, only Thomas knows now. So Craig says that he can that he can be of use to them, right? So Craig's going to use him as sort of a pawn here, to kind of, I wouldn't say, poison the rest of them, but at least kind of trick the rest of them into believing exactly what Craig wants them to believe. So Craig sends them back to tell the group of survivors not to talk about where they have came from, right? So Thomas is kind of preaching a little bit here, like he has a group of the people and he's kind of telling them, how to act and, what to do. And we see Caleb, he questions Thomas a little, right? He kind of, pushes back on him a little bit and kind of, I think he says, oh, like, where did you hear this from? And stuff like that, right? So he's already a little bit suspicious. Of course, we get a scene with just the two of them one-on-one later, which was really awesome. I mean, that was, like, pretty intense. And I'll get to that, but yeah, so that, Caleb was already questioning him a little bit, and Thomas says to not say anything and do as little as possible so that they can have lives here, right? So he doesn't want them talking about the migration anymore or anything like that. Well, of course, Craig wants this, right? But Thomas is kind of now his messenger boy. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, if I was Thomas, I go back to the camp. Obviously, I mean, is Craig really going to find out that he talked to every single person and told them this? I don't know. Like, I really believe that Thomas is kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's actually kind of buying this. Like, he seriously thinks that they shouldn't talk about it. I don't think that Craig's just totally influencing him 100%. But anyways, Thomas is an interesting character so far. Where they're going to take him. Is he going to become a kind of a bad guy or an antagonist going forward? I kind of think so. I'm kind of leaning that way, but we'll have to see. So anyways, and we do get a little bit of focus on him now after we just saw a bag on this head last episode. But anyways, so we see this man approaches Hannah. This was really weird, and maybe I'm missing something, like I said before, but anyways, this just seemed really, really weird, obviously really creepy, and, you feel for Hannah, which is good. They're kind of developing already that empathy towards her, but I just felt like this was kind of really weird and out of place. Like, I don't know, it just really did not fit with the rest of the stuff going on. Like a really, really different, subplot. But anyway, so the man approaches Hannah and tells her that he knows her and that he will tell the others what she did in the past or the future, right? It gets really confusing with the show. But anyways, what she has done before, and she's going to tell he's going to tell the people. So this was really, you get really creepy vibes from him. He kind of like reaches for, in her, like, to her pants, I guess. But he grabs the sunglasses, of course, so he doesn't, touch her, or anything. But that, like, it's just really creepy vibes from him. Of course, later on in the episode, towards the end, like, it got even more creepier. So I don't know. I was confused by this. I appreciated it because of what they're, building here, for Hannah as a character, but I didn't really get it. But anyways, so then Hannah, goes and asks Roy to get her out of the camp, right? So, she wants to leave just like that. And I felt like that was a little bit sudden. Literally, I mean, she walked away from this guy and then went to Roy. I felt like that was a little bit sudden. It could have worked a little bit better if we saw that a little bit later in the episode. Maybe even just the next scene, like after that. But anyways, So of course he declines, right? I mean, he's not going to do that. Obviously he'd risk his job. So she lies and tells him that there's nothing going on, right? So obviously there is something going on. But and this guy kind of is threatening her, right? So she can't really tell Roy anyways, even if she wanted to. Well, she does want to, but she couldn't tell him because of what this guy is threatening, right? So then Roy leaves for the day in his pickup truck. And we see that Hannah gets her wish after all as she sneaks into the truck as he drives into town. So she's on the back there on the bed, in the truck bed there. And then when he gets to a stop there at Harborfest, when he goes into the town, she jumps off and runs away. So this was awesome. I really liked this. This was kind of like the start of the action, or the mystery in this one. So I really like that. I felt like that was awesome. Kind of takes matters into her own hands because she knows Roy's not going to help her. Sorry. But I mean, he helps her anyways in the long run, but just without knowing. So anyways, that was great. So we see Reece. So I'm just going to cover the whole Reece thing now. I just think it's going to be easier. But in the episode we did get, scenes, split up here, but I'm just going to talk about it all focused together. So Reece is on the run from the men, of course, right, from the bathroom, but they're kind of tracking her. I guess they kind of see her blood trail, right? So that's the way they're tracking her. And then she senses that they are close. We kind of see that she has these like advanced senses, or these heightened senses, so that she can know, when they're actually close. So the man then finds this bloody rag under a tree, right? And of course it's Reece's, right? From her arm, or she was wearing it over her arm, but it's for her chest. So then Reece attacks him all of a sudden, right? And that was awesome. Yeah, and it was a trap, right? It was a trap. And just before he radios too, so she kind of like stops him from telling them the truth about what happened. So anyways, she attacks him, and she asks where her daughter is, and we get that idea over and over again that she's just doing this for her daughter. She's only doing all this stuff for her daughter, and that's all she wants. So I don't know, is that exactly what's happening, or maybe does she have kind of an evil side and that's why she's doing this as well? So maybe, right? Anyways, then we see a little bit later she lures the rest of the men into a trap, right? She kind of gets them to all come together in one spot, and she's up in a tree. So this was awesome. And then she jumps down. She takes each one of them down one by one. This is just a total badass scene, and we've seen Reece is like a total badass. And I would say there's like 6 or 7 men here, and she just takes out each one of them really easily too. I mean, not really with any struggle. I think the one man kind of gives her a fight, but that's it. So yeah, really awesome scene there. And she then asks where the man in charge is. So she's going to the top here, and she wants to take him out. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. So then later in the episode again, she goes to meet the man, and this was awesome. This whole scene, how this played out, is freaking awesome. So she goes to meet him, and he drops his weapon as she asks him to, right? She says, drop your weapon and whatever. But then he pushes a button on this remote that sends like a frequency or something like that to Reece, but no other human. So the rest of them can't hear it, but only she can because she's Apex, right? So this frequency basically disables her. She falls on the ground, like she can't move really when it's playing. And I guess that's the weapon that we saw, him show Craig earlier. So yeah, so he says he hasn't seen an Apex in over 10 years, and he plans to make up for lost time. Wow, like that's a pretty serious thing to say, right? So obviously, he plans to torture her and do whatever. Obviously he has a hatred for the Apex, like all of them do, really, right? So anyways, then she tells him that then she tells him that she's the only one who made it through, right? She's the only Apex here, and because he thinks that, she's part of a group or something, right? Because, that's even a bigger worry. But she says, no, I'm the only one here, and obviously we kind of believe that, right? Because she's only there for her daughter. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gone, right? So then we see the man threatens to put a bullet in the head of whoever she stuck around for, whoever she cares about. That's what he says. So whoever you care about, I'm going to put a bullet in their head. And then all of a sudden we see she kind of pauses here and she thinks of Leia, right? And this just like basically sparks her, to fight back all of a sudden. So she's able to grab kind of a broken log from the tree, and she throws it at the man, and he drops the switch, right? So he drops the switch out of his hand. So now she's able to fight like normal, and she's back on her feet. So she runs over to him, and before he even knew what was going on, she snaps his neck and kills him. So, damn, like that was a crazy scene as well. Really badass. So I love these parts with Reece, and he's taken down. So, and I guess I'll talk about it now. But the whole thing with Reece is, at least me watching that scene, I didn't want her to die. Like, I didn't want that man to kill her. Yet she is kind of a villain. You know what I mean? Like, she's an Apex, and she's already killed, multiple people now that she's been on Earth, or at least this Earth. Yet I'm kind of cheering for her. So she's kind of an anti-hero in a way, a little bit so far. Because, I don't know, like, maybe this is just me, but I do want her to get her daughter. I don't know. Like, it just seems like, that's, she's a likable character. You kind of feel for her for what she's gone through and stuff like that with the flashbacks that we've seen. So you kind of want her to succeed. Well, meanwhile, she's killed all these men now. Well, not all these men, but some men. And she's really not a good person. So anyways, it's a really tough area there, rooting for her and then also understanding, what she's done. So yeah, it's really tough there, and going forward, I think they are doing a good job so far. So going forward, we'll have to see kind of which way she ends up going there. Whether she ends up finding her daughter, and ends up being a good guy, or maybe they kind of twist it up on us, and maybe she is actually a bad guy, and maybe we were cheering for the wrong person the whole time. So that might be it too. But anyways, though, we see Craig hires a woman to look into the outbreak, and then Emma meets the new girl. Her name's Sophie. So this was kind of interesting, another introduction of a new character here. So Sophie, then Emma, says hi to her, whatever. And then Sophie visits Leia in isolation. So she's kind of there to stop an outbreak, but also, trying to look into Leia and see what's wrong with her, right? Obviously, because the people on Earth now, they have no idea what this disease is. So she asks Leia then if she's had this disease before, because she's done some tests and it looks like she has. And Leia tells her that her mom was the medicine for it. She's like, oh, did your mom give it to you? No, my mom was the medicine. That's like, what? Like, that's pretty crazy stuff there. So Sophie obviously is, dumbfounded. She has no idea, what Leia is saying here. So she goes to talk to Rebecca about Leia a little bit later on that bridge. And Rebecca, then Sophie tells Rebecca, about the mother, right? So that the mother was the medicine for Leia for this disease. And Rebecca's, no, there's no cure for this. There's no way that Leia would have done that. And then all of a sudden, a flip kind of switches for Rebecca here, and she figures out that her mother may have been Apex, right? So she all of a sudden, like, you see that, facial expression there where she figures it out. She's like, oh my God, right? Her mom could have been an Apex, and that's how, she was cured the first time. But she lies to Sophie. She doesn't tell Sophie at this point. Later in the episode, of course, she does come clean, and, well, not fully, though. She really only mentions just the word Apex. She doesn't really explain it all. But in this case, she lies to Sophie. So, I don't know. Sophie's an interesting character. I thought it was, again, a little bit random to see this now. Just bringing in a character like this. So, I'm not sure how big she'll be, how long she'll be here, in the show. But we'll have to see. So, maybe she's going to be a pivotal role, and maybe she'll be gone after next episode. I really don't know yet. But, anyways, yeah. So, then we see Jude and his son. They're kind of spending the day together, right? His son wins out at a carnival stand. So, that was, kind of nice, right? Just kind of a break from all the action and the killing, from Reese's point of view there. So we see that Hannah walks around at Harborfest, and she's, and obviously Jude, doesn't recognize her, right? So, she's able to kind of just walk around freely, and yeah, I think she walks, right when we see Jude and his son at the carnival, I think she walks by in the background, so, he wouldn't really know her. But anyway, so then she walks around Harborfest. She sees the Marshall guy that we met before in the drunk tank. He's kind of like a local shit disturber pretty much, right? He's in the drunk tank most nights, I would say, or at least every weekend, for this and for that, just petty crimes. But, he's not the best dude, right? So all of a sudden, then we see after he walks by her, she remembers that he was the one on her locket that she dropped in the water. And this was like probably the biggest twist of the whole episode here. This was really, really strange, but really interesting as well. So then Hannah confronts him and asks for his help, right? So she kind of lies to him, of course, because she wants to, spend time with him and see him. So they have some food together, right? They're kind of just talking and whatever. And she tells him where she is from. So then, and that was interesting too. Like she told him where she was from, and he knew the town actually. So obviously, she didn't go too far in the future. So then she tells him that he shouldn't move to LA because he's talking about that and whatever. And she says, but you should stay here instead of going to LA. So after she tells him, to stay here, not to move to LA. So I thought, right away that maybe she knows the future him, right? And so now, she doesn't want, either the future him or like a future, like a child of his. Like, I don't know, because they're from like 200 years in the future. So obviously it's not him. But yeah, so I don't know exactly how this is all going to work out. I bet we're going to find out a little bit later. But obviously there's something, connecting the two, right? And obviously she knows something about him in the future, so she wants him to stay. And obviously, he's really confused. Like, he has no idea what she's talking about, whatever. So then they're watching this little concert at Harbor Fest, whatever, and she tells him that she was meant to find him. And, you're the Marshall guy. You're like, what's going on, right? He had no idea. And she says, they said you were a good man, someone I could trust. They said if I found you, I'd be okay. And it's like, what's going on, right? Like, what does she mean? Who is they is the biggest question here, right? Like, who is they? And maybe the people from the future who sent her back to, in this time machine. I don't know, right? So it's really, a really good question there. A lot of this stuff is just mysterious. And then suddenly, right when we're, kind of getting into it, and Hannah's explaining, all of a sudden Roy finds her, right? So Roy finds her, tries taking her, and Marshall objects, and he kind of like stands up for her, and he's like, no, like, he doesn't want her to take him to take her. Obviously, he doesn't know that, he's the guard and she's, one of these survivors that needs to go back to the camp. But anyways, so he's kind of objecting here to Roy, and Jude kind of comes in and breaks it up. So I don't know, it was kind of like a convenient thing that Jude was there and like goes in and breaks it up. It's kind of like a little bit weird, but anyway, so he comes in, and then Roy takes her back to the camp, right? And then we see her back at the camp, okay? So this was, like, really creepy. So now she walks into her room, and that man from before is there again. He's just sitting in that rocking chair, right? Like, right in her room. And it's, like, really, really creepy. So she tells him to leave right away. She tells him to, like, get out of my room. Like, why are you here? And then he threatens to tell them that she was a former Apex collaborator. Crazy stuff, right? And obviously that's not going to go over well with the survivors. And my question here is he one of the 47? Like, did I miss something here? I think he is one of the 47. I don't think he's one of the Homeland guys. Obviously, because, how would he know that? But I think he's one of the 47. But this is the first time we've ever seen him. So that's why I was a little bit, fishy with that one, or a little bit confused. But, there are 47 of them. And I would say we've probably only seen about 10 so far, 10 or 12. So, obviously there's going to be a lot of people that we haven't met yet. But anyways, that's big news, right? That she was a former Apex collaborator. That's huge. So then he tells her, yeah, and this was really creepy. He tells her, as long as you're in here, I own you. Like, what? Like, that was just really creepy as shit when he said that. I mean, I own you? Like, what? So, I don't know, like, I really don't know what they're setting up here. Like I said before, it just seemed really out of place. And maybe, maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something else going on here. But to me, personally, it just seems kind of out of place. And I really don't understand, where they're going with this. But I'm sure they're going to work it in somehow and kind of, throw a twist at us. And somehow it'll, kind of makes sense. But for right now, it's just really creepy, and you really feel for Hannah in this situation. Like, why does she, why is this happening to her? Like, she doesn't really deserve this, even if she is an Apex collaborator. I mean, like, what's going on? So, and we don't exactly know what the man's intentions are. Like, I own you. Like, what does that mean? Right? It's like, in a sexual way, like, we really just don't know right now, right? So we can't really jump to conclusions, but obviously we'll have to see where they take that. So we see that Emma questions Thomas after his meeting with Craig. So this was very interesting, actually. And we get this a little bit at the end of the episode here, that she's really starting to kind of suspect something is up here with Craig. She isn't really trusting him all the way, especially after he like directly defied her last episode and brought in that like SWAT team, right, without her consent. So Thomas tells her that what he told her about an early migration is a lie, which of course is a lie in itself. It's not true, right? You know, that was true. Thomas was telling the truth, but now Craig doesn't want him to tell her, right? So then Emma questions him why he would say that kind of lie, right? Like, how could you make something like that up? Which obviously, you know, he couldn't. It was real. So then Thomas gets a little mixed up here. He kind of, you know, mixes up his words and what he's saying. His story isn't totally making sense now. And Emma kind of is drilling him here, you know? So she's definitely suspecting something is up here with Thomas. And she, you know, she's really just kind of, I wouldn't, yeah, so I would just say suspicious, right? She just kind of wants to get to the bottom of it and find out what's going on. And obviously Thomas, you know, doesn't outright tell her, but him being kind of mixed up and, you know, not having a story straight here obviously doesn't help. So she kind of looks into it more. So then she goes to see Jude at the station during his day off. This is pretty funny. And Jude's like not having it. He's like, no, you know, like I'm not going to help you or whatever. And Emma tells him that she believes that it has happened before, right? That an early migration did happen. So she trusts Thomas, even though Thomas is now telling her that he lied to her. And she thinks, you know, yeah, that there was an early migration. And then she says, this was a pivotal line too. She says that he is the only one she can trust in this, right? So she obviously knows, you know, where we know that she obviously suspects it was Craig and people who are higher up, right? And she knows that Jude's not going to go to him so that she can trust him. So this was very interesting. And Jude's like not having it at all. I mean, he just says that he won't help her and kind of walks away. Which, I mean, I understand, right, from Jude, but he's kind of being a little bit annoying, kind of holding a little bit of a grudge here for what Emma kind of shunned him a little bit earlier, and not, you know, involving him, and now she wants to involve him, right? You kind of can't have it both ways. So I see where he's coming from. And then we see Emma a little bit later then look into the files from the investigation. She phones and asks about this facility, and I'm not exactly sure where this facility was, but I'm guessing it's the place where Thomas was being held. So anyways, then the woman tells her that there are no matches. Like, you know, what she is, you know, telling them, that doesn't exist. So obviously that's a mystery to her because she thinks it does and all this stuff. So she's kind of getting the bottom of things here, and then she hangs up right when the girl asks for her badge number, right? So very interesting, right? She doesn't want to get caught, and obviously that badge number would be would identify her. So yeah, for sure, she hangs up then and kind of keeps it secret. So obviously she's onto something here. We know that she's obviously right. I mean, something has happened here, and it's very interesting to see her kind of already questioning and kind of changing. You know, since even the pilot, like she was totally on Craig's side. And now she's, you know, kind of changed, and she's really kind of looking into things. So very interesting there, and we'll see where that, you know, goes going forward. So we see this scene. I really like this scene, actually. I think The Crossing put this on their Twitter, too. Like, it was a you know, pretty big scene. So Caleb then confronts Thomas. So this was kind of what we were waiting for after that little bit of stuff in the beginning of the episode. So he tells him that they will only be in the camp for a couple more weeks, right? Thomas, that's what he's, you know, tells Caleb. And then... and then Caleb says that he just saw, right, that he just saw all the people off loading off the stuff, and it looked like it was for a couple months, not a couple weeks, right? So Caleb is already, you know, kind of questioning Thomas and proving, right, that like, you know, Thomas, you know, like, what are you saying? I just saw them unloading 2 months of stuff, and now you're telling me that we're going to be out here in 2 weeks. Doesn't match up, right? So Caleb's already kind of, you know, questioning him. So he questions Thomas a little bit further, right? And, you know, he's really breaking down Thomas. Like, Thomas is kind of, you know, falling apart here. And so Thomas tells him that if he keeps looking for problems, he will be the last one out of the camp, if at all. So, you know, he's kind of threatening Caleb, actually, and saying, you know, you keep looking for problems, you keep looking into this stuff, you're not going to get out of this camp. So just, you know, kind of behave and, you know, go for the status quo here. And Caleb is, as we know, is kind of, you know, not about that, right? He wants to look into things himself, and he's kind of the de facto leader, I would say, of the survivors so far. And it's going to be very interesting how he takes this from Thomas. I don't think he's going to take Thomas's shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that he, you know, he has that kind of respect for Thomas, but Anyways, so we'll have to see where that goes. But I thought that was a really intense scene there between the two. So then we see Reece driving back to the camp now. Finally, she's in the car. And obviously, she's taken out all the men, so now she's on her way. And then Jude watches the fireworks with his son, right? This is kind of the very end of the episode. And all of a sudden, they hear a car horn and a window smash. So, Jude, of course, being the sheriff, everyone kind of panics. But he goes over to the scene, and he finds the man that Reece snapped his neck earlier, right? So she killed him earlier, and this guy is just thrown on the hood of the car, right? And he's just kind of sprawled out in the car. So obviously she just did that. And he has a bloody note in his mouth that reads, and I had to pause it for this too because I totally missed this. The note says, "Now you suffer, Sheriff," right? And that was crazy, and it's like, what does that mean? And then all of a sudden Jude remembers Oliver, right? His son. So he runs back to his son as soon, right when he thinks of that, and he's gone. Reece has taken him. So what a cliffhanger to end the episode off. I really, really enjoyed that. Kind of 1 for 1 here, right? An even trade. So she takes his son, because he's kind of, stopping her from getting her daughter. So she kind of, takes the son hostage. So really crazy stuff here. Now you suffer, Sheriff. So that was really creepy note there, along with, again, like I said at the beginning, the mirror with the blood on it. Like, wow. So anyways, that is the end of the episode here. Now I'll get to my rating, fair character, and some more overall thoughts. All right, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.6 out of 5. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. I liked it better than last week, but not quite as good as the pilot. The pilot was really, really awesome. One of the best pilots, honestly, that I've seen in a while. So really, really great job there. A lot of plot building here, right? A lot of new storylines kind of introduced, especially like Hannah and this creepy guy, right, that we're introduced to. Craig hiring the new doctor. What part is she going to play going forward? Is she going to be able to solve this disease? Right? Who knows? The Caleb and Thomas kind of conflict. So just a lot of stuff is built up in this episode. And they did it really well. A lot more twists, right, in this episode. We got that twist with Hannah and a few other ones in there, right? So that was really great. Some great action scenes, of course, with Reece. I really love to watch those. Really badass, moments there for her, being able to take out all those guys. And I will say the scenes with Jude and his son, I think it was a little bit too focused. I think it was a little bit too saturated with those kind of scenes. And it seemed a little cliche. I mean, it was still kind of enjoyable. You kind of understand, the father-son dynamic there finally between the two. And you get a little bit of backstory on Jude. But at this point, with everything else going on, all the action, all the twists, and, all this story going on. And then I feel like the show just kind of slowed down right when it was Jude and his son. And it just kind of came to a grinding halt. And it was just kind of boring, I would say, honestly. Like, I thought it was just kind of everything else though in the episode, like, and then we get a commercial, we come back, boom, like the action is on, everything's going on, it's intense, and then again we go back to Jude and his son, and it's just, everything just comes to a stop. So that's my opinion of that. I thought it was still enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but just a kind of a weird transition, like, from the rest of the stuff that was going on. It didn't really seem to fit with the rest of the episode. But anyways, that's my opinion there, and please leave your comments of what you liked, what you didn't like, and all that stuff, what you thought of the episode down below for sure. My favorite character of this one's going to be Emma Wren, right? And she's played by Sandrine Holt. She's been in Homeland, Mr. Robot. I think she's been in a couple others as well, but she's, a TV actress, right? And she's really awesome. I mean, I think she's doing a really good job with Emma Wren here so far. And, obviously the character, right? Emma, really changing. Like I said, episode 1, she kind of seemed like, following orders, that, that type of person, do whatever, the boss says. But now she's starting to question it a little bit and kind of looking into things. So obviously, changing a little bit, obviously for the better, because we know that something is going on. And she's smart. She's figuring it out. So I'll have to see what kind of trouble that gets her into going forward. What she's able to find out. Maybe Jude and her will work together, one of these days. Who knows? But yeah, I would guess that they will, right? Just for the, the purpose of the series. But obviously I get Jude's point of view too, why he doesn't want to work with her. But anyways, that'll just about do it for the review for this week's episode 3. And it's crazy. Like, we're already 3 weeks into the series. It doesn't seem like that. But anyways, So thank you so much for watching this review. Thank you so much for the recent support on the videos, in specific the reviews for this series, but also the channel as well. You know, it's really, really awesome. Can't thank you guys enough. So, anyways, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for episode 4 of The Crossing.